Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe Radha Madhava Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Stotra Satya Shri Srimati Goswami's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Serve Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 11, entitled Calculation of Time from the Atom, and we're going to read text 7 to 9. So we'll repeat text number 7 together. Nimesha Trilava Gyeya Amnata Te Traya Kshana Kshanan Pancha Viduhu Kashtam Laghu Taha Dashapancha Cha Nimeshastri Lavogyeya Amnataste Trayakshana Kshanan Pancha Vidhu Kashtam Laguta Dasha Panchacha Nimeshastri Lavogyeya Amnataste Trayakshana Kshanan Pancha Vidhu Kashtam Laguta Dasha Panchacha Nimeshastri Lavogyeya Amnataste Trayakshana Kshanan panchaviduh kashtam Laghu tadasha panchacha Nimeshastri lavo geya Anasti trayakshana Nimeshastri garo geya Kranan panchavidu kashtam Laguta dasha panchacha Matajis? Amnataste trayakshanaha Kshanan panchavidu kashtam Laguta dasha panchacha Nimeshaha The duration of time called a nimesha. Trilavaha the duration of 3 lavas. Nyeya is to be known. Amnataha it is so called. Te they. Trayaha 3. Kshanaha the duration of time called a kshana. Kshanan such kshanas. Pancha 5. Viduhu one should understand. Kashtam the duration of time called a kashta. Laghu the duration of time called a laghu. Taha those. Dashapancha 15. Cha also. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The duration of time of 3 lavas is equal to 1 nimesha. The combination of 3 nimeshas makes 1 kshana. 5 kshanas combined together make 1 kashta, and 15 kashtas make 1 laghu. Purport. By calculation, it is found that 1 laghu is equal to 2 minutes. The atomic calculation of time in terms of Vedic wisdom may be converted into present time with this understanding. So we're going to read on until text 9. Laghuni vaisa mannata dasha pancha chanadika tedve muhurta prahara shatyama sapta vandranam. Translation. 15 laghus make 1 nadika, which is also called a danda. 2 dandas make 1 muhurta, and 6 or 7 dandas make 1/4 of a day or night according to human calculation. Text 9. Dvadashardha palomanam chaturangulai svarnama shaikrita chidram yavat prasta jalaplutam. Translation. The measuring pot for 1 nadika or danda can be prepared with a 6 pala weight, 14-ounce pot of copper, in which a hole is bored with a golden probe weighing 4 masha and measuring 4 fingers long. When the pot is placed on water, the time before the water overflows in the pot is called 1 danda. Purport. It is advised herein that the bore in the copper measuring pot must be made with a probe weighing not more than 4 masha and measuring not longer than 4 fingers. This regulates the diameter of the hole. The pot is submerged in water and the overflooding time is called a danda. This is another way of measuring the duration of a danda, just as time is measured by sand in a glass. It appears that in the days of Vedic civilization, there was no dearth of knowledge in physics, chemistry, or higher mathematics. Measurements were calculated in different ways, as simply as could be done. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Shivaram Swamiti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshutaine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna to devotees. So we're back here with the calculation of time from the atom. It's been some verses describing the intricacies of this measurement of time. And actually this third canto is mainly focusing on these two topics of Sarga and Visarga. Right, there's 10 topics in Srimad Bhagavatam. Atta Sarga Visargascha Stanam Poshanam Uttaya Manvantaresha Nukata Nirodha Muktirashaya. So these are the 10 topics that are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. And especially in this third canto, we hear a lot about the Sarga and Visarga. It's also described in other cantos. But it is very important for devotees to go a little bit into that and understanding the external energy of the Lord. Some might think, okay, it's just the external energy, so why would we need to know? But it is very important because actually the energy and the energetic is not to be separated. We hear that in the Vedic scriptures a lot. And this fact is actually declined by the modern science. Scientists, they very much try to do the opposite, to separate the energetic from the energy. And by this then they can justify taking advantage of material nature to the extent they want to. Because if there is no possessor of the energy, if there is no supreme personality of Godhead, then what's the matter? Why should not we be the ones enjoying to the fullmost extent? And so this is explained in different texts also in Srimad Bhagavatam, or in Brahma Samhita. Actually there's this one verse, Ekopya Saura Chaitum Chagadanda Kotim Yach Chakti Rasti Chagadanda Chayantarastam Chan Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Vajami. So there it is pointed out that Krishna is an undifferentiated entity where there is no distinction between the potency and the possessor thereof. And so when he creates these millions of worlds, he still is connected and is in every atom of this creation. It's not that he's separate from it. At the same time, everything exists in him fully, and that's very inconceivable. And that's described that this is the Lord that Brahma is praying to. So one example that could be given, is like if you walk down the street and you find a wallet on the street, then the intuitive reaction is to look for the owner of that wallet. There is money inside, so somebody must have owned this wallet. It's not that we just walk around often and see wallets lying around. And so immediately we understand there must be an owner of this energy. And because of this, we treat this wallet differently than we would if it was just, for grabs. So in the same way, if we just use this material energy for our own enjoyment, then we get entangled. And science in this way is really trying to justify whatever they can to enjoy this material world. And that's described also, beginning of science was actually there to describe the glories of God. In the beginning, especially when there was the Renaissance, what they called 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, where the upcoming scientists, they were trying to, through the observation of material nature, glorify God, see God's hands in it. And so the first scientists, they were very theistically minded, but then over time it changed, and now we are on the opposite end, where science is very much just into proving that there is no God and that everything is just matter, and so we're the lords of all that we survey, and we should take advantage of it. And what actually is happening in that act is that scientists, they go deeper and deeper into illusion, right? That's what's actually happening. They get more and more entangled in matter, the very substance that they're studying. That is very visible. We had heard some classes the other day, Siksastakam Prabhu also mentioned, and the discussion afterwards, how most of the universe is made up of dark matter, is what they call. So they have no clue what it is. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually, he explains that modern education is knowledge in ignorance, because it's like the more you study matter, the more you get entangled by it, the more you get enchanted by it, and therefore influenced by the mode of material nature, which is ignorance. Sri Maharaj once he gave this example of, is like, being in a prison and then very intricately studying the prison, what it is made of, what is it. Somebody can even make a PhD on the toilet, how is the toilet functioning. But at the end of the day, it will not help us to get out of the prison, right? And however much we understand of the matter, like, the details, if we just get stuck in this separation of the energy from the energetic, then we will not find a way out of the prison. We will just get stuck with analyzing the details of the material energy. So in this way, what we can learn is that, from the Vedic scriptures, is that there's very much a connection between the energy and the energetic. And that's described here in the third canto, especially also here with the one aspect of the external energy, which is time. And it just shows us again how profound this Vedic civilization must have been to have come up with all these descriptions and measurements. Even if you go, so that's very minute descriptions of the most small forms of time, of the atoms, but then it goes into the long durations, right? We hear about Yuga, and then Divya Yugas, and the Manus, the periods of Manus, and then up to the days of Brahma. So it's like huge time spans that modern science has no clue about and will not get into, because they cannot appreciate this Srimad Bhagavatam. Why can they not appreciate? It's because they have no devotion. They don't do service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is also described in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, actually first canto, Srila Prabhupada gives the standard of obtaining knowledge. How do we actually obtain knowledge? In universities we never hear about this, but this is actually how you would really attain real knowledge, is that one has to be pure in mind. But no one can be pure in mind if he's not pure in action, and no one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And if we are not pure in these activities, we will not be able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, we will not have revelation of knowledge, because that's the process of Vedic, how Vedic knowledge is transmitted. It's by revelation. Yes, we read about it, that's the jnanam part, but then the vijnanam, the realization, comes by revelation. And it's not something that you can, that's also why, it is said you cannot really study Srimad Bhagavatam as you would study like a book in school. Rather, we just pray to Bhagavatam. We become an object of mercy of the Bhagavatam. We let the Bhagavatam reveal itself to us, And that's the process through Guru Parampara, how we can actually access the Srimad Bhagavatam. By serving Srimad Bhagavatam, which all of you are very nicely doing by distributing Srimad Bhagavatam, also sharing it with the world. But then also by trying to live accordingly, by serving Bhagavat, the person Bhagavat. And in this way, the mercy comes through which we can really enter the Srimad Bhagavatam, the text of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so, even though sometimes the Bhagavatam might be technical, and maybe, some devotees might find it a little challenging to read, or, why is there so much description of the time and all these different small little details. An actual, advanced devotee, he will take so much pleasure and relish even of these things, because he knows this is the beauty of the external energy of the Lord, and he sees the connection to the Supreme Personality of the Lord. And the more we hear about from Srimad Bhagavatam and these different descriptions, the faith that grows from it, we were also hearing about that we should have so much faith, seeing, how powerful this Bhagavatam is, how much knowledge is there. We should have so much faith that whatever is in the Srimad Bhagavatam is absolute truth. There's nothing to worry about in that regard. And then what we do, we want to really engage in devotional service. We want to use any second we have in devotional service. Chanakya Pandit is also saying, Prabhupada often quoted that also, that there's nothing as valuable as time. And if you have 1 million gold coins, you cannot buy a second from time that has passed. And Srila Prabhupada would give this example, now it's 8:06 on the 24th of June, so that moment is gone, and you cannot buy it back with any amount of money, of anything. So that's why time is really, really important for a devotee, not to waste it. It is also called a symptom of bhava, actually, avyarta kalatvam, that an advanced devotee, he will not waste a single second of Krishna's time, understanding that it's this time that will actually help him to really come closer to Krishna. And that's also an interesting fact about time, that, in material world there's so much talk about time as well, and about how to manage time. There's all these courses and self-help books on how can you, use your time wisely. But then a devotee, spiritual time management means to just engage in Krishna service, and Krishna will provide everything necessary for the devotee to have enough time and all the things he needs to properly advance in spiritual life. So that's what you could call spiritual time management. And there's some examples of this I was thinking of, when they were, for example, printing the Chaitanya Charitamrita back in Prabhupada's times, when Prabhupada told Rameshwar Prabhu, no, I want Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita printed in 2 months, instead of what they thought they can print one book in 3 months. So instead of that, he wanted all the 14 volumes, was it, in 2 months. And it's like, it's impossible. That's what Rameshwar Prabhu said. But Mahotsa Prabhu was speaking like this, that Rameshwar Prabhu once explained to him, at that point of time, when Rameshwar Prabhu said it's impossible, Srila Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And they were on a morning walk, so Prabhupada put down his cane and then he started walking again. And Rameshwar Prabhu fell back a little bit, like stunned, what can we do now? And at that time he says he had like a download from Krishna, to put it in modern words. Like everything came to him, how to actually do it, what they have to do to make this happen. And even though it seems impossible, it must be done. That's the order of the spiritual master, so it has to be done. And then after that, he made these conditions and the whole arrangements of how it can be done. And they had shifts going on 24 hours a day. But even like that, it was not realistically speaking possible. So we can understand that Krishna, he can expand time, he can contract time, and especially for the devotees, he will give them all the necessary time they need to serve Lord Chaitanya's mission in that way. Another example I was thinking of is Mahotsa Prabhu's book distribution, like distributing 5,000 books in one day. It's like, One day has only so much hours, and then you can only be on the street so many hours. So how can you do it? How can you distribute 5,000 books? When we heard that in Europe, it's like, it's impossible. We try to go break it down into minutes. Okay, how many books a minute? And it seemed like inconceivable. But that's the thing. If Krishna wants it to happen, if devotees are determined to use time to the fullest extent and to really understand that it's the most valuable thing, then Krishna will make it happen, no doubt about it. And this is the main purpose of Krishna's energy, that's time. You can say, of course, it has to do a lot with the sarga, visarga, with creation. But at the end of the day, Srila Prabhupada said, everything Krishna does, everything that Krishna manifests, shows and does as in his actions, it's all meant for the exaltation of rasa, is to bring his devotees closer to him, to bring out that rasa, that taste of the mellow of relationship that every individual has with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so it's also seen, in his pastimes in Vrindavan that if necessary, whatever is favorable for the pastime, the lotus of Vrindavan, it contracts or it expands, and in this way time shortens and lengthens. And if Krishna needs to come to a meeting with the gopis late, then everything will conspire that he will be late. And the other way around, if it's favorable, if he's on time, then everything will, even though he's far, far away, everything will be in that way that he can reach there in time. So in this way, we can understand also Krishna he's beyond time and space. And these are his energies that he uses for the exaltation of rasa, to enhance the loving relationships that he has with his devotees. And one aspect I was thinking about also in connection with time is just how everything has its time, I don't know if you know what I mean, in the sense of sometimes you think, why are things not happening in Krishna consciousness? Why are not more devotees joining? Or why is this person that I invested so much time and energy in, why is he not, getting on, latching onto it and fully giving himself to Krishna? These kind of things. And you just come to the point where you think, okay, it's not in my hands. It's just a matter of time in one sense. And we can see that in Srila Prabhupada's life, So he's this pure devotee sent by Krishna, how he himself says, that Krishna asked him to go to this material world, write these books and distribute them everywhere. But then it took him so long in one sense, right? You could almost say he wasted over 60 years of his life in the material world until he actually could do this mission. But then we can understand that Krishna, he makes all these arrangements. He uses the time factor in that way that all the arrangements are perfect to happen what has to happen to spread Srila Prabhupada's movement, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. And even in Srila Prabhupada's life, we can see how those who understand, they understand. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he knew. We were just watching these Prabhupada memories by Mula Prakriti Mataji. And how in one meeting there was this Gauramandal Parikram, and Nayananda Das Babaji Maharaj, he was there. And it was a whole assembly of devotees. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was in front giving a lecture. And then he was looking out into the crowd, into the audience, and he was saying that it was the ardent desire of Bhaktivinoda Thakur to spread these teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and that it has to happen, and that he also, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wants this to happen, that these teachings go to the West and reach the Mlechas and Yavanas so that they can also engage in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. And so as he was saying this and looking out into the crowd, he was kind of scanning, who was there, and he scanned all the sannyasis and the brahmacharis in the front. But then Nayanandas Babaji Maharaj, who was staying a little bit in the back, he could see that he looked at him at one point, straightly in the eyes. And he was thinking, what's happening? He kind of locked eyes, but then he realized it wasn't actually him that he was looking at, but he was looking behind him. So he turned around, and there was Abai Babu at that time, they called him. And he was standing there, and he described how they locked eyes, and it was such an intense glance, such an intense exchange that took place. And then this moment broke, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur turned back to his audience and he said that he wants to make a prediction that however long in the future there will be one of his disciples that crosses the ocean to spread these teachings of Lord Chaitanya with the whole world, and he will bring back all these people to the Dhams and connect them with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that prediction was made, and of course it came to fruition. But again, even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he also said, however much time in the future it will be. So in this sense, we can understand again, is like the time factor is very mystical. And Krishna, even though he wants something to happen, it might take some time. It might take some time, but without fail, it will happen. That's for sure. And we should have really strong faith in that. Without fail, it will happen. Even before that also, it was this one of his godbrothers of Srila Prabhupada's, he told Bhaktisiddhanta, so why, this Abhay, he's a really nice devotee, but he's living outside. Why is he not, coming close to the mat and serving in the mat? He should really just dedicate himself. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no, don't worry, let him be. His time will come. He also said, his time will come. So in this way, there were so many indications that led up to this point where finally the time was ripe. And Srila Prabhupada, he went to the West. He started preaching, and even then, right, it was not easy. We can see that. And there's another example of how he was in this park, sitting on a bench, and one person, he later on described this, he was sitting next to him, he was intrigued by this sadhu in orange robes and all that. And he asked him who he was, and Srila Prabhupada said, yeah, I'm the founder of an international society for Krishna consciousness. It has millions of temples, maybe not millions, thousands of temples around the world, thousands of disciples. And so this man was intrigued. Well, he's sitting here alone. He doesn't look like such a famous person. So he asked, okay, wow, can you show me? Is there a temple here in New York? And Srila Prabhupada said, at this point, time is just separating me from that vision to come true. But he also understood, it will come. Time will come. It will be there. But it was not at that point of time that time was ripe. So in this way, we should really just have this full faith. Also in one letter to me, my spiritual master wrote me this. I wrote a letter to him just about, Sankirtan, told him some Sankirtan stories. And he was saying, thank you for your letter and Sankirtan miracles. People ask whether miracles happen, and book distributors know that they do on the streets of the world's cities. Stay fixed in the service, and by serving Lord Chaitanya's mission, you will be transformed by his ongoing miracles. It is a matter of time only. You are a well-wisher in Srila Prabhupada's service, Sri Ram Swami. So, making this point again, it's just a matter of time. As long as we're engaged in this mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of sincerely trying to follow Srila Prabhupada's standards, to engage in preaching, then Mahaprabhu will make it happen. My spiritual master he quotes often this verse of Yata Yata Gaura Padara Vinde. He discussed it also with His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj the other day, where it says that one who is extremely fortunate may get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As much as one can devote his full attention and time to the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, to that extent he will be able to taste the nectarine service of the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan. The more one engages in the service of Sri Chaitanya, the more one finds oneself in Vrindavan, tasting the nectar of the service of Sri Radha. So in that way, it's not that in other traditions or even in other Gaudiya institutions, then the focus is very much on bhajan, on investing time in bhajan and chanting a lot, and that's there. But at the other hand, the main service is to share this Krishna consciousness with others, is to engage in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement and spreading the holy name all over the world. And by doing that, by gaining the favor of Mahaprabhu, then in time, automatically, we will be engaged in Vrindavan, and we'll find ourselves in our original constitutional position, revealed our identity in Krishna Lila. So in this way, it's just a question of time. And one more thing I wanted to say, or that I can explain from my experience about how it is not somebody's time and then it comes to pass, is in the example of my mother, even though she's not a devotee yet. But what I see is how she gradually comes closer over time. I joined 2017, and my mother became a vegetarian shortly after that. So she's been vegetarian now also for such a long time. And from that point on, I could see how Krishna stepped into her life and started doing things. I was explaining to Ali Krishna Prabhu yesterday how she started some education in some therapy, and then there's 2 schools in Switzerland, so she started in one school with 30 other students, which were split into 5 groups, and then she came to one teacher who was the only devotee in whole Switzerland that practices this form of therapy. So she came to him, and this devotee took care of her, explained her about Krishna consciousness, what it is, and she became very pacified, first of all, that actually this is something bona fide, and I can trust it, because she was quite freaked out, to say the least, in the beginning. But over time, then things changed. And just like 2 years ago, she opened up that actually she was chanting the Maha Mantra. Wow. And I was like very surprised, because she never told me, and she was always like distant. She would not tell me these things. But then she said, she chanted, but when she chanted the mantra once and then twice, what happened is that it was just too powerful. She was like overcome by something that she felt like, whoa, if I continue, then it will just suck me in like my son, I don't want this. So she had to stop. But you know what they say, if somebody chants, then, it's just a question of time. Again, the holy name will do its work. It was very, very interesting, how she said that. So that was like, she did that just after I joined, basically, a little later. And then, at some point, what she did is, she joined the Maharishis, for some reason or the other. I don't know how that happened. There's this transcendental meditation TM, so she bought a mantra there, classic, what Prabhupada always says is the greatest bogus thing. How can you sell a mantra? But she did it. It's very expensive. And she did some courses with them, whatever. But she started practicing chanting this mantra twice a day. I was like, why don't you just, chant Hare Krishna? What's the problem? And I told her, what Prabhupada said about Maharishi. Once is also in the Prabhupada memory. I don't remember which one it is. But some of the leading Maharishi disciples, they came to Srila Prabhupada. And they entered into Prabhupada's darshan room, and the devotees were all excited. Wow, this is amazing. If these people become devotees, we can take over the whole Maharishi team, make them all into Hare Krishna's devotees. And then they were very humble, and they explained to Prabhupada, he was sitting behind this table. They explained to him that Maharishi sent them to him because Maharishi said that he's the actual devotee of Krishna, and he knows about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where they were just more into the impersonal form of the Supreme. And like that, they glorified Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was just sitting behind his desk, and he was sitting there, and they stopped speaking, and they were waiting. What will Srila Prabhupada say, and he was just sitting there. He is nonsense. Maharishi, he's nonsense. That was his final conclusion. These guys, they were so humble, submissive, and they really want. Prabhupada just smashed all of it. Really interesting. I don't know what happened afterwards, whether they became devotees or not, but just goes to show how Prabhupada also, he had a clear opinion on Maharishi. So anyway, my mother, she got this mantra of Maharishi, and I asked her, so what is the mantra? And she said she's not allowed to tell me. It's sacred. She cannot tell me. And I was like, okay, whatever, at least she's practicing some form of, Vedic kind of based knowledge. But then lately, I visited her again, and she was saying how I asked her if she's still meditating with that mantra, and she said, yeah, sometimes, but actually she doesn't really know what it means, if I could explain. And I said, what's the mantra? And then she said it. And you know what the mantra is? It was Shyama. Shyama. Shyama? That's good. That's really good. that's one of the main names of Krishna, Shyama. And I explained to her a little bit, and she was like very surprised. And I said, yeah, just chant Hare Krishna. Everything is there. Why you need to pay so much money? We do that for free. Come join us. And yeah, exactly. I showed her a picture. Look, this is Shyama. Look, this is Shyama. He's there waiting for you. Anyway, she was happy that I could tell her something about it, and she actually started practicing again more with that kind of background. So I hope she's kind of meditating with, she knows now how Shyama looks, and maybe if it just flashes up every now and then, and maybe she can make some serious advancement. Anyway, what happened just this year is that last year she just offered me, like out of the blue, she knew that I was going to India, so she said, can I come to India also? Can I come see you? And she would never go to India, like, Asia and this kind of country, she would never want to visit. And she was not traveling the last, 10 years or so. She just, so then she came actually to India, to Mayapur. She spent 5 days there, and it was really, really wonderful, I showed her all the pastime place of Mahaprabhu. She really got the mercy, so much prasadam, Mahaprasadam. And then also, we were invited to have lunch with Shiva Maharaj, maybe 3 or 5 days, or almost every day. And one time it was Shiva Maharaj, Niranjan Maharaj, Chandramoli Maharaj, my mother and me, So she got like the full dose of mercy of the Dham. And then also afterwards, we did a little trip. Of course, you want to see Taj Mahal and like that, but at least Agra is close to Vrindavan. So we went to Vrindavan. She did the full Govardhan Parikram. She went the full way around 20 kilometers. She did it, So like that, she must have some Agyata Sukriti that she can do these things. And I'm 100% convinced it's just a matter of time. And I stopped kind of pushing her, pressuring her, knowing that, Krishna he's so powerful. He will do it. I just an instrument, and in whatever little way I will be there, but she will come for sure. So yeah, these are some ways I was thinking of how time is working, and how sometimes we can see it's not the time for somebody to take up Krishna consciousness, to really dedicate themselves, but we should not lose faith or give up on them, or we should just be patiently waiting also, and just supplying whatever we can for them to advance in their spiritual lives. Yeah, these were just a few thoughts. I just wanted to thank the devotees also for having me here, giving me this wonderful experience of what it means, to just fully do the mission and engage in that. And you have really something very wonderful going here. I can see that from comparing to other temples I've been, and also in the West, in Europe. There's not many temples where we have such a energy going on, and such a mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada happening, where devotees are really just absorbed in doing the mission, sharing Krishna consciousness. And so I feel very indebted to all of you, and I hope and pray that you can continue forever like this. Know that you inspire so many devotees in Europe also, all over the world, and that by just doing this, I cannot imagine how much mercy you're getting from previous acharyas, from your Guru Maharaj, from even, Shiva Maharaj is so fond of this project. And when he was here, he was so happy. I hardly seen him like that, he was just like so inspired, and to do books also himself, and he's always telling Mahotsav Prabhu how all that is going on in Hungary, all the book distribution, is just his credit, So you are all getting a lot of mercy, so please keep on serving Krishna in that way, and again, in time, everything will come. And thank you very much. If there are any comments, questions, corrections.
Thank you for a very inspiring class, and thank you for again, thank you for being here. You're leaving us too soon.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, like your Guru Maharaj.
That was really short, right?
So you're following in his footsteps. This the story of your mother is tremendously inspiring. I mean, how it's so clear from your story how much Lord Chaitanya is so happy with your Sankirtan efforts, your efforts to serve your Guru Maharaj, and he's just showering mercy on your mom. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. It's just, wow. This thing about knowledge you were speaking, and I was thinking how in today's world, people, they don't understand the difference between information and knowledge. And they think information is knowledge. Information is not knowledge. Information, you can have a lot of information, but you may not understand it at all. And knowledge is when you actually understand something. And so people think that just read a lot of books or watch a lot of videos or whatever, and you just get information. But information is useless because you don't know how to process it. So to gain knowledge from the Bhagavatam, we have to take shelter of the pure devotee. Otherwise, it's just information. All the Vedas are all just information. So much information. So yeah.
Very true, and also we have to be careful not to take this over into devotional life, right? Like many of us, we've gone through university, have been brainwashed to think like that and act like that. And I see myself this tendency, to just read Bhagavatam and even just like enjoy or, to just look for information. But yeah, it's a very beautiful point. We have to really make it a habit to get knowledge and in this way, learn from our spiritual masters and by their mercy understand Bhagavatam. Thank you for sharing.
Hare Krishna. I really like that point that you were making in regards to time, and that time belongs to Krishna. So it isn't really ours to waste. If we see ourselves wasting time or not being properly engaged, we can really think that actually this time doesn't belong to me. When you have that proper consciousness, you even think, oh, this body, it doesn't even belong to me, so it should be used in Krishna's service. So same with time, that this 24 hours that I have every day, it actually doesn't belong to me. So I should be able to maximize and use as much of that as I can in Krishna's service, because that's actually what time is for. Time is for engaging in Krishna's service. So I thought that was a good point. And in this regard, we were just in Houston, and there's this one devotee that stays there. His name is Patita Pavan Prabhu. And he's a really nice example of this. We were speaking with him, and he was going through like what he does on like a day-to-day basis, what his program is like, and he was even just the days that he was there, he was like, during japa period, he was doing this, he was doing that, and he was like, at 11 o'clock, I'm going to this farm for the program, then right after that, I'm going on book distribution for 4 hours, then I'm going back to the temple, organizing the Sunday program, then I'm distributing Bhagavatam sets after the Sunday program, and then also even he was talking about how when he's going to the universities and he's driving with the other devotee, he always has the devotee read to him so they don't waste that time either, because he was stressing that actually a lot to us, how important it is to read and how you can get that same benefit if someone with you is reading, but they're just reading out loud and you're really listening to that. So he was giving us a lot of practical examples also how to not waste time in Krishna consciousness, and just we can see examples like that and follow in their footsteps.
Right. Very beautiful, thank you. Yeah, I mean, you all are traveling so much, you know. I was like shocked, you know. I'm still kind of processing. I just went to Miami and back, you know, like
It's a big country.
it's a big country. In Europe, we don't, you know, Switzerland, in 3 hours you pass the whole country, so it's a little different. So much time that goes into traveling, and like, so that's a very good point of how you can use even that, you know, for being very much engaged in Krishna service. Yeah, thank you.
Sankirtan men live on the highway.
Yeah. Spend more time on the road than at the temple.
Okay, anything from the Mataji side? All right, then thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, all Krishna life devotees ki jai.
Siksastakam Prabhu ki jai.